Hi there, and welcome to Home Selling 101. My name is Tina Beliveau, and we are here today to educate you on what it looks like to sell your home for the best possible price and with the smoothest possible outcome. Let me tell you a little bit about the Beliveau Group and why we're hosting this event, and then I'm going to introduce you to our wonderful panelists. I have been an agent since 2005, and cumulatively, the Beliveau Group has sold over 1,000 homes in the Baltimore metro area. And we are very, very passionate about sellers and representing sellers in getting the best possible price and the best possible outcome, as I just referenced. And over the years, we've developed our own proprietary process called TBG Seller Select. And what that is it's a concierge system that we've designed to take stress off of our client's plate and take control of the entire process, therefore maximizing success and sale prices. So we're going to dive into that a little bit more as we have the discussion today, but we do things like recommending cosmetic touch-ups to increase the return on investment and also keep your out-of-pocket costs to prepare your home for sale as low as possible. We coordinate estimates, we oversee the work being done, we do hands-on in-house home staging, high-quality photography, videography, social media marketing, and a whole lot more. So from everything that we've been doing over the years, developing that process, testing, refining, and improving it, we have learned so much. And our goal today is to share a lot of those secrets, insights, and our tactics to help you when you make the move. So with all of that being said, I'm going to introduce our three incredible expert panelists. First up, we have my partner, Diana Pham. Diana is a realtor partner at the Beliveau Group, as well as a property manager. Hello.
Hello, good morning.
And Diana's going to dive in a moment with our first questions. And then next up, we have Stephanie Weir, our home stager and stylist.
Good morning. Good to be here.
Glad you're here. And last but certainly not least, we have Matt Nader with First Home Mortgage. He is our mortgage expert, among many other things.
Good morning.
So we're going to dive right into our content and talk about the state of today's real estate market. So the state of our market being so advantageous for sellers was actually the impetus for this seminar. Diana, can you walk us through the big picture of what's happening in the Baltimore metro market?
Sure. So right before we started this call, we were all just talking about how absolutely crazy it is out there. So essentially, it kind of boiled down to the fact that there are low interest rates that are bringing a lot of buyers into the market, but we have also really, really low inventory, likely part of result of COVID. So it's causing this feeding frenzy that's out there for buyers. So there's just not a lot of houses to choose from. And so buyers are descending on the ones that are on the market, and lots of bidding wars, multiple offers, as-is contracts, all of that are the results of that. So, and Tina just pulled up an image here. So this kind of gives a good representation of what's happening right now. And this is a comparison of right now, August 2020 compared to a 5-year average. So what you can see is closed sales are at a pretty much all-time high. So 5-year average was just under, 3,890. And then, this year we're in the 4,000s. So a really big increase. Same thing with the new pendings. So again, lots of houses under contract right now. A huge jump from the 5-year average, almost 1,000, the jump from the average. But on the other side, on the right-hand side here, we see this representation of the low inventory. So we have an all-time low in terms of active listings. So 5-year average is, just around 10,000, just under that. And in August, we had just under 5,000. So that's a big, big decrease. Yeah. And months of supply. So this is a metric that we use to determine, how long things are going to stay on the market. Whether it's a buyer's market, seller's market. And what we're seeing is the average is 3 months of inventory. So that's giving you an idea of how many houses might be there on average for a buyer to pick from. And as of August, it was half that, roughly at 1.4 months. So things have changed dramatically, and it's causing this situation where buyers there aren't enough houses to choose from.
Well, thank you so much for walking us through all of that, first of all. So with everything you said, we've been describing this market like it's at a fever pitch. And a lot of people have been coming to us and have been curious, saying, how long can this last? And how long can I count on interest rates to stay this low? So Matt, can you educate us a little bit? What are interest rates right now, and how do they compare to rates historically?
Sure. Rates right now, rates really this year since March, historically since they've been recorded, have been on average the all-time lows we've ever seen. We're also, from what we see, what we read, what Fannie and Freddie projections are right now, is that rates are going to stay at these levels. They might even go down a little bit. It's really contingent upon what happens in the market. The Feds just came out last week and said that they're going to keep the overnight discount rate as extremely low as to where it is now for the next up to 2023, so 3 years. So what that means is that our rates are going to stay low. The overnight discount rate isn't what the mortgage rate is, but what it is, it's a good indicator as to where we're going to stay. So the expectation from the banking side is that, yeah, rates are going to stay extremely low for a long time, which just in turn gives buyers more power. And we've never seen anything like this on our side. You said there's 3 months of inventory. It feels like there's 3 hours of inventory at times. Yeah. So the projections for the next really 12 to 18 months is demand is going to stay high. Demand is driven by a couple different things, rates being a very, very big one. Secondarily, we're seeing a lot of change and movement on like what the buyer's interest is and what they want to see. So some of the cities, people are moving out of the cities, and then you have some backfill with some of like the younger buyers that are coming in and taking advantage of these rates and getting out of their rentals.
So help us, that's a perfect kind of segue to what I wanted to ask you next, which is how do these record low rates benefit sellers? Like, connect that dot for us.
Sure. So on the selling side of things, it's getting them more activity. It's increasing what their buyer pool may have been, a couple of years ago. And you're having more activity in the market. We're getting, on our side of things, the mortgage side of things, we're getting more and more buyers calling and saying, I didn't think I wanted to buy, but I might as well just take a look at this. What does it look like? Because rates are 3% or 2.5%. Do I have the buying power? And there's so many tools out there that can help buyers if, a lot of times they come to us and say, well, we don't have the cash for down payment. There's other ways to utilize and leverage to find ways to get into a home. So what it's done is I think it's just increased that demand on the buy side. So on the seller side, they're sitting there smiling, saying, sure, I'll take, 5X the amount of buyers I thought I was going to have. So it's really pushing more and more people into the market to purchase a home, just because that same house they're looking at could be, a 1% or 2% lower in interest rate, which is going to yield a ton of savings.
Beautiful. Thank you. So super helpful to hear that. And I think it's interesting what we've even observed in the last few weeks is we've been saying this message of like, we need more sellers, we need more inventory for months, and people are starting to slowly get that memo and reach out to us and say, oh man, like I really, I can see it now at this point that I really ought to consider this opportunity. So question for Diana, like while rates might be great next year, we could also see more sellers continue to hear this message and have it resonate with themselves personally. And then more sellers will choose to list, and then inventory will rise. Do you think there's a good reason to list now and just get right ahead of that possibility?
Yeah, absolutely. So, exactly as you said, we just don't, there's obviously some level of uncertainty. We don't know if there's going to be any changes to, all of this influx of buyers on one side. We have some unknowns that are happening this year in terms of like the election and all of that might be coming up. So we could see some impacts in terms of the buyer pool. But what we know is, right now, there is a shortage of inventory. So it's always best to kind of get on the upside of that wave as opposed to, joining when everyone else is joining and trying to take advantage of, these rates and the influx of buyers that are in the market. So as a seller, it's a really good time to capitalize on these kinds of market conditions while there's pent-up buyer demand and not enough houses that are on the market right now, because that could drastically change by next year as more people jump into the market on the selling side.
Well said. Yeah, I mean, I think there's nothing to add to that. It's just sort of that common wisdom of trying to predict the housing market or the real estate market. Nobody has that crystal ball. So I know we had that conversation with one client you met with this week of, here are the facts now. Do the facts now work for you? Are they advantageous for you? And make that decision based on what we know today. So
I also think,
go ahead, sorry, Matt.
Sorry, I also think that the demand is so long right now, right? That it does make, it makes so much sense, because even if we do get a couple more sellers into the market, and the inventory does start to pick up, I think that the demand is so much longer than what the supply chain is right now that, yeah, it does make so much sense, because you're going to have a backup and a backup and a backup of another buyer that has, they've been out there and they've written on, as we were just talking before we jumped on, clients that are writing on 2 and 3 and 15 different homes and still not procuring contracts. So as that demand still stays and as it continues to grow, that's where I think it's such a great time to sell.
So true. Yeah, there's a lot of meat left on that bone.
Yes, there is. Yes, there is.
So another thing that came up as we were preparing for this, seminar and wanting to make sure it was as valuable as possible is some common misconceptions that people have about the process of selling. One thing about today's market being so different is how many days on market or how long it really takes to sell a home in today's market. Diana, could you speak to that a little bit?
Sure. So, the average days on market pre-COVID, it varied depending on neighborhood, area, all of that. But let's say that we were seeing an average of 55 days on market. Right now, it's completely blown out of the water. What we're seeing are houses selling within a few days. We're seeing houses that are getting offers before they even hit the market, before anyone even steps in the front door for the house. There's offers coming in. So, there's this kind of pain point with selling a house of you have to have it open to people coming in, and, what if that takes 55 days or, whatever the case may be. It's no longer the case. Houses are going for much, much faster, and sometimes we just can't keep them on the market, past a day. So everything's just sped up light years, with the recent market situation.
So that's a perfect segue, because speaking of speed, one of the major topics that we wanted to make sure we cover today is coordinating a seamless process for wherever you're moving when you're selling a property, unless it's just an investment property, which is much simpler in that regard. But for everyone who isn't in that kind of situation, maybe you're trading up to a bigger home, maybe you're downsizing. The reality is you're going somewhere. And that piece, the coordination, introduces the most complications, the most questions, and quite frankly, the most need to have a really good team advising and coordinating the whole thing. So along the lines of what you were saying of not being able to keep homes on the market for more than a day, being in this competitive market, when you're buying, there is this contingency called a home sale contingency, which means, classically it would be, hey, I want to buy your house, but I can back out of buying your house if my home doesn't sell, which in a normal market, people will often entertain that. So Diana, is there anything you kind of want to add to what that, home sale contingency looks like and how that's received in today's market?
Right. So, as Tina said, home sale contingency is putting in an offer and saying, well, I got to list and sell my house first. In a multiple offer situation, sellers are looking for the best, cleanest, least risky offer that they possibly can get. So if you are going in with an offer that has a home sale contingency and you have to put your home, on the market and sell it, compare that to another buyer who doesn't have a home to sell. This is just the price that they're willing to offer. They have very minimal other contingencies. Very often the seller is going to be more likely to pick a house that does not have a home sale contingency, because there isn't that unknown of, is the seller going to, be able to sell their house. Even with this, market situation, there's always some, some doubt, and it's always picking the least risky. What's the home run offer that I have here? So the least contingencies that you have, the more likely that you are to win out in a multiple offer situation, which is what we're seeing all over the board.
Thank you. So ultimately, if someone has the need or the perceived need for a home sale contingency, that can create a real challenge being competitive. So Matt, there are a number of mortgage options that many sellers don't even know about that are wonderful solutions to this challenge. The first one is a special in-house product that your company offers, which is a bridge loan. Can you kick off by explaining the bridge loan opportunity?
Absolutely. Yeah. So we get lots of calls of really want to buy a house. We just had twins and we only have 3 bedrooms and we need more quickly. Okay, let's figure it out. So it's they say, Matt, we have a home to sell. We need the proceeds from our home in order to purchase the next. So we do have it in-house. It's a unique, what's called a bridge loan. And it's just that. It's bridging you from your home that you're living in, removing the contingency of the sale into the next home. And what that means is, as we were talking about a contingency being contingent upon the sale of this home, what the bridge loan does is it siphons out the equity up front prior to selling and allows you to use that cash as a down payment for the next home. And then once the family's in the new home, they've settled, they sell their house that they just vacated, that sale is then paying off their first mortgage and the bridge loan that we, again, siphoned out that equity up front. So it's a good, unique product. Essentially what it's doing is it's allowing the buyer to become a viable buyer in this market. There's not many contingent buyers that are getting contracts these days because, as we just talked about, the demand is so long that there's going to be somebody else out there that doesn't have that contingency. So my goal or my job as a lender is to let's figure out how to make the buyers the strongest buyers we possibly can. And a bridge loan is a really, really good one. Now, a bridge loan is a better product if it's we're in a rush. Matt, we've just fell in love with this house. We need it. We have to close in 30 days. How do we get there? And I say that because the bridge loan, it is a full funded loan up front at time of settlement. Another alternative to that is what's called a home equity line of credit. So that's a better opportunity or a better product. More of it's a kind of a longer term. You're more of planning it out. It could be 1 month. It could be 6 months. And I say that because a home equity line of credit is, it's a line of credit. It's tied to the equity in your home. So you own your home. In order to get your home on the market. And that seller talks to me and they say, Matt, we want to buy a house X amount in this neighborhood. Great. We're going to get qualified. This is how we do it. And if they have time, and the reason I say time is a home equity line is going to take a little bit longer. It's a 45 or 60-day close. But what a home equity line allows you to do is a couple different things. It allows you to utilize that line of credit. You're not paying interest on that money unless you've used that money. So the bridge loan, again, is a fully funded loan up front. So you're going to start off with paying interest on the loan. A line of credit is tied to your property, and you can have it at a zero balance. And if it's a zero balance, you don't pay any interest. You're only paying interest on the amount that you owe. So it's a good tool to use for, one, cash for the next down payment. Secondarily, if Diane, you go to the house and you tell the client that they need to do paint and carpet and a couple upgrades, you have the availability to literally write yourself a check. And again, it's the equity that you would have been taking from the sale or the return of the sale. You're utilizing that cash to clean the house up and get it all ready for sale. So you can use it for two different things.
I love that you point that out, Matt, because in general, home equity line is one of the cheapest ways to borrow money, correct?
Right. That is correct. Yeah. Closing cost wise, it's much cheaper than doing a first trust. The bridge loan, it's a little bit more expensive, but it's not that much more expensive. But again, with the bridge loan, you're paying the interest if you owe the money. With the line of credit, you have the ability to keep it at a zero balance and you're not paying interest on it. So that looks like someone that calls and says, we're really interested, but we have a specific neighborhood that we're targeting. We have to be in this neighborhood. And that neighborhood might not turn over, every week or two. It might be 6 or 8 months. So if they have that loan there, they have the ability to keep the line of credit at zero. Therefore, they're not paying anything. But if and when something pops up, they have the ability to deploy the cash and buy the next home.
Yeah, and I think it's really valuable for us to touch on this because I would imagine a lot of the people who are watching or going to watch this are planners. They're thinking ahead. So going and getting that home equity line quickly so that you have it when you need it is the most prudent thing to do, is what I'm hearing,
Right.
what you're saying.
Right. Yep.
So before we move on from this topic, there's actually a few other ways that you have creatively helped our clients. And one is something called a recast of a mortgage. And whenever I bring it up, people have no idea what I'm talking about. So can you please explain for us, what is a recast?
Sure. So a recast is the client has the availability to purchase the next home without being contingent upon the property. And maybe they don't necessarily need a line of credit. So what they are able to do is they're able to purchase the next home, move in. Once Steph goes over and stages the house and sells it, once they get the return of their cash, they can then take that lump sum of cash and they can dump it into the mortgage and they can have their payment recasted. So it's a one-time principal curtailment, and you can request the bank to what's called recast your loan. That's not a refinance, so you're not incurring the refinance fees. Your amortization schedule stays the same, meaning if it's a 30-year fix, it's 360 months, and you're 10 months into it, your amortization schedule stays still at 350 months. It doesn't change. But what it does is it drops your monthly obligation. So for example, if someone had a net return of $100,000 from their sale, and they wanted to take that lump sum of money and dump it into the new home that they have a mortgage on, that $100,000 is going to roughly save them about $500 a month.
Wow.
So if they have the ability to utilize their own cash up front without selling the home or taking a line of credit or a bridge loan, they can then take the return from the sale, dump it into the new one. And what it's doing ultimately is it's lowering their monthly obligation.
Beautiful. Yeah. So that's part of this overall, like, hey, I could afford to buy without selling, but I can only put 5% down to start. And how do I keep from having that crazy high mortgage? So that's a question that we get a lot. And I believe, in my experience, not everybody offers recasts, which is why we love working with someone like you who offers a very big variety of products. So is there anything you want to touch on with that?
We have everything that's out there in the market. There's not a product that we don't have that we can't help clients. There are some unique products that other banks have, and quite frankly, if somebody has to have something like that, I'm going to find them the best product out there. That's my goal, is to not just close deals, it's to build relationships. So, but product wise, there's so many tools out there to help purchase homes right now. And most people are scared. They're scared to have the conversation or to dip their toes in the water and ask the questions of, I have this house to sell. I think I can sell it, but how do I get into the next one? And it's a simple conversation, and it's just carving out a pathway. There's many different ways you can utilize, and I get a lot of calls of clients that have a really nice home to sell, and they might not have the time to get a bridge loan or even get a home equity line of credit. And there's other ways that you can leverage on your own assets. And a big one is retirement funds. Now, you can take a 401k loan for residential purposes, and there's no taxation on it. You can withdraw money out of an IRA as long as you pay it back within 60 days, and there's no taxation on it. So there's so many different ways and unique tools that we have the ability to help and leverage on. It's just a matter of having the conversation and figure out what fits the families the best.
Well, thank you so much for walking us through all of that. I'm even just thinking over the last 30 days with the clients that we've all collaborated on, we've covered all of this. And again, when we speak to these people, generally all of these solutions are completely news to them. So hopefully this is enlightening to the people watching. One other solution that we wanted to layer on top is something to throw out there that we've used from time to time called a home of choice contingency. Diana, could you touch on that for a moment?
Yeah, so this is actually basically the opposite of the home sale contingency. So, and this is really helpful in this sort of market where you have a ton of buyers who are clamoring to purchase a home. And what it is, as a seller, you can put your home on the market and accept an offer and go under contract, but you have this clause as home of choice. And what it means is it allows the seller a certain amount of time that's set within this, this clause within the contract to identify and successfully go under contract on their next home. So it keeps the buyer waiting. And, in this sort of a market where you might have, 5 offers coming in and there's not a lot of inventory on the market, we're seeing buyers being a lot more flexible with seller conditions of this sort. So it gives you that sort of that time, that flexibility to get your home under contract, get a great buyer, keep them kind of on pause and waiting while you identify your next great home. So that's another way to go about it. And your home is already under contract, so you're less risky as a buyer on your new home for those potential sellers. So it's a really good option and tool that sellers can use nowadays.
Great, thank you. And one more thing we're going to throw out there, and then we'll move on to some other subject matters. We've implemented a program called Name Your Price to match buyers with sellers who don't want to list their home officially or in any, official channel where they have to stage and do some of the things we're going to talk about today, but they would sell it if they could get a specific price. I'm going to screen share a little bit, but could you walk us through how that works?
Yeah, absolutely. So, this is one of those things, and I think this also speaks to the fact that a lot of sellers don't necessarily fully understand how crazy the market is. And so they might have this dream price that they could attain for their home, and they think it might kind of be, out of reach. But if they let us know what it is, and we have these buyers who, because there's low inventory, they can't find a house that looks like yours in that particular neighborhood, they might be willing to pay the price, that would make you move out of your home. So what we've been doing is, collecting this information, and anytime we come across a buyer who seems like a good match, and it's kind of like playing matchmaker with these potential houses and these potential buyers, we make these connections, and we've been really successful in the last few months in identifying, some of these really good matches off market. So you don't have to have, all these buyers kind of coming through the home and, putting it on the market and photos and all that. It's really it's a matchmaking process. So it's a really good tool if you're kind of sitting there like, well, I would sell, if I could get this, certain price. We've been really successful in making those matches.
Yeah, thank you for explaining that. And I would just say, I encourage everybody to go to that landing page, sellwithtbg.com. There's literally no downside to filling out that form. It's totally confidential. It goes nowhere but to me and Diana, and we just hold on to the names and phone numbers of people who might have a home for one of our buyers. So high upside, no downside. So with that little advertisement, are we going to jump in, Matt?
I was going to say, how often right now are we seeing just that happening, right? Like someone calls and says, hey guys, I might sell my house in the next couple of years. And then all of a sudden you're like, oh, well, that's fantastic because I have a buyer that's literally looking in your neighborhood. They want your bedroom and bathroom count. Matter of fact, we were in your neighborhood and they saw your house the other day and they said, man, that's a beautiful home. Now the hard part of selling a house is gone. Here's the buyer right here. Here you go. They want to buy your house.
Yeah, and with this market, it's happening more than ever. We've been calling it matchmaking a lot, along with Name Your Price. We have a match made that settled a couple days ago. We have another one that just went under contract. We received a referral this week. I spoke with the seller and immediately thought, oh, this is perfect for these other people that we also met with this week. So we're doing it all the time. And it's not always the right thing for people, but the beautiful thing is it's another option that we can put forward to help them make a good decision. So Stephanie hasn't gotten to talk at all. So sorry, Stephanie, but we're getting into staging now. It's your turn. So as our home stager and stylist, you enter the mix to help our clients pull their houses together quickly and make them look like a model home or as close to catalog worthy as possible. And our goal is to help sellers have what we call the perfect storm: multiple offers, hopefully selling over list price with just a few days on market. So just on a simple level, how does a house need to look for that perfect storm to happen?
Well, thanks. And it's been just, I get to do kind of the fun, not that, the whole process is so seamless. And so when I jump in, They've already, established this great relationship with Diana and Tina and Matt. And so I come in and assess the house, and I see all its potential, and it's been really fun to just work with the client and let them know, kind of piggyback on the recommendations that Diana has made. And we just want to just perfect the painting, the little touch-ups that can be done inexpensively, but can make a great impact for a potential buyer. We really want the house to look perfect. We want it fresh paint. We want it deep cleaned. A lot of times that means maybe getting a professional cleaning service in, so that all a buyer can see when they walk in is potential and something that sparkles and shines and allows them to see themselves in the house. So really, we can help do that really quickly and a lot of times inexpensively.
Yeah, a lot of the time it's like, Stephanie, can you be there tomorrow? The house needs to go on the market 2 days from now. And we just turn it around.
Yeah, it can be done. Yeah.
Yeah. And it can be a little intimidating, right? Like somebody might be hearing what you just said and think, oh, I have to do all of that. But part of what we've designed our team to do is we manage that. We totally get that. We don't want you to spend $1 that you don't need to spend to sell your house, especially if there's no return or a low return. And sometimes people can even be a little bit resistant to spending, the money or the time. That being said, I know there's a couple key things that make the most impact. You did just mention some of them, but just to really drive that point home, I know we all watched HGTV, but sometimes when it's our own home, we don't always see it as clearly because we've been living in it constantly. So what are some of the examples of the things that you feel make the biggest impact for fast, profitable selling?
So the painting, that's not very expensive compared to maybe, I feel like I should put a additional bedroom in the house, just getting that crisp look in the house, decluttering, especially this time, everybody's home, maybe you're already doing that. And it's just such a nice feel to live in. So decluttering, depersonalizing your house, again, so that buyer can just walk in and see the potential of themselves in the house. And the cleaning. And just, you can get a storage pod that, again, that's not that expensive. It's a little bit of investment, but if you feel like you have to really move your furniture out, you don't have anywhere to put it, that's an option. So there's lots of ways that we can work with a client to help them feel de-stressed about the whole process. And go ahead. Yeah.
No, I was just saying, and ultimately, like, those are all really small ticket items. And ironically, we get a lot of calls from people who are like, should I put in a brand new kitchen? Should I gut this bathroom? And unfortunately, and ironically, those are the things where sometimes you only get 60 to 80% of your money back. You could spend a lot on a kitchen, but you could spend $20,000 on a kitchen renovation and not even see that full $20,000 back in your sale price. In fact, it's very difficult if you're paying like retail contractor pricing for the most part. So that being said, there is a service that can help when some of those bigger improvements come up. Diana, do you want to just touch on that for a moment?
Yeah, so, as Tina said, and we very rarely will recommend this sort of route because exactly, as Tina was mentioning, the return on it is not always, it's not 100%, it's not 120%. But there are situations where some, larger improvement projects beyond, fresh paint or cleaning is really needed to, pull in the highest profit on the home. So we do partner with a service where you can actually do the improvements prior to settling on the home, and then from your proceeds of the sale, you then pay back for the actual improvements that were done. So, it's a way to incorporate those improvements into the actual sale and not have to, have all of this, cash up front to do those sorts of improvements.
Perfect. Thank you so much. And I think that also kind of ties back to if you're really ahead of the game and can get that home equity line that we talked about earlier, that's a great solution. But then in real estate, there's so many emergencies, last minute, house of your dreams comes up. And that's where some of these solutions can really tie it all together. So one last question for you, Stephanie. Staging, like you kicked off, there's no question that it's the very fun, visual, affirming part of the process, especially when you have that beautiful finished product. You take houses that are occupied and make them look beautiful for our clients. We also list many vacant properties where we bring everything in. Mm-hmm. That being said, what is your favorite thing to do to make a house look catalog ready and set it totally apart from the competition?
One of my favorite parts is staging a bedroom. And it's especially fun to see a client that's living in the home, their response to that, because it's become this sanctuary that maybe when you're living in it, you just can't envision it. You don't have the time. You just kind of pile things in there. And it's wonderful when you can come in and have that transformation and clients are like, oh, I wish I'd done this and been living in this for a long time. But the bedroom is really great because that's where we're home now in this era quite often. And it's nice to have a place that's peaceful and just serene and away from where we're living together and the kids are around, what have you. So the bedroom has been, I think, a big impact that everybody responds to in such a nice way. But the whole house, I love doing the whole house.
Yes, you do. Well, your work is beautiful. And if anyone ever wants to see what our staging work looks like, the best thing to do is find us on Instagram, which is @Beliveau Group. You can look at any of our active listings and you can see whether the homes are occupied or vacant. Stephanie's staging magic, TBG magic, as we call it at times. So, we're going to wrap up here in a second. The goal today was to share as much wisdom as quickly as possible. We've covered some really critical, lesser known information today. One thing we can't tell you on a webinar is specifically what your house is worth or make the perfect recommendation for which mortgage option might be right for you without knowing things like your equity position and a whole lot more. So the next step from here is to connect with one of us at any point for a no obligation conversation. Typically, again, when you're looking at selling and buying together, we're looking at what your house is worth, what mortgage options are out there for you, improvements you may or may not want to make, and then any other aspect of the process that you have questions about. And then we help you construct that plan. So I'm going to put up our contact info in the screen share for a minute. And one question that we had actually gotten, Diana, somebody, a lot of people ask us, with the pandemic concerns, how are we conducting meetings? Can you speak to that a little bit?
Sure. Yeah. So we'll conduct meetings in whichever way, the seller is comfortable. That's basically what it boils down to. So if you're comfortable with us coming into your home, and being fully masked, we are absolutely okay with that as well. We've done a lot of video and Zoom consultations too. So it can feel like a little bit weird, like you're going around with your phone or your tablet or whatever and, taking a video of your house. But we can get a lot of information from those video consults as well. So it's really, wherever you are in terms of your comfort with setting up a meeting, we'll meet you exactly there.
Thank you. And Matt, same question for you. How do people generally collaborate with you?
Most of the time it's over the phone. We have a very unique system that, a lot of it's online, and we're all in such a fast-paced life that no one really has time to sit down and meet. I'll gladly meet with anybody. But I've done a lot of Zoom calls. The in-person application in itself, it's very rare right now. Yeah. I think that's COVID, but I also think it's really morphed into that over the last couple of years because mostly everything can be done online. We have an online portal that everyone can, upload all the financials that we need securely, and they can continue about their lives. And then we jump on a phone call and talk about the financing.
Perfect. Okay, so that's pretty much where we are. We've covered everything we wanted to cover. I'm just going to put up one last slide again with our sellwithtbg.url. So we've put together an easy landing page for you where you can request a home valuation. Actually, why don't I just show you all what I am talking about here. So bear with me here. get to the right screen. So on this landing page, sellwithtbg.com, it takes you to some couple different options. You can click here and request an instant home valuation. So that will be an automated valuation, and then we will see that request and also potentially do follow up with you to refine that. But if you just want that instant number, that's where to get it. You can also get to our name your price form, which you'll see is really simple. It's 4 questions, your name, your contact info, and at the end you get to name your price. We also have a detailed brochure explaining our services in more detail, which we touched on a lot today. Again, that program is called TBG Seller Select. You can read about that here. You can also browse real estate listings or use these links to connect with us on our social media. So with all that being said, we're going to wrap this up. However, I would love to give all of our panelists an opportunity to give a parting shot, a word of wisdom, or from everything that we talked about today, what you heard that you think is the most important for potential sellers to hear. So who would like to drop a little pearl of wisdom first?
I'll go.
Great.
I think it's so extremely important to really prepare into this market. It's such a fast-paced market that if you're not well prepared, you're going to miss out. So I think that goes from selling a home from, staging and quite frankly, listening to the stager, because you guys as a team, as a group, you guys know what the buyers want. You then tell Steph, hey, this is what buyers want. This is what they like. This is what they want to see when they walk into a new home. This is what sells the home the fastest because our buyers are writing on it. So it's preparing, it's getting ready, whether it's selling your home or buying a home. I just think it's so important in such a competitive market to have every single facet of selling to buying to closing to moving, all of it well prepared and aligned with the right people to allow you to get to the home you want.
Love it. So basically do everything we said on this webinar. No big deal. Seriously, preparation is key, right? Because that makes it a lot easier to maximize all of the opportunities we've talked about.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Very well said.
Yeah.
Anything else you ladies want to add?
Yeah, I'll add something. So, I think what kind of solidified for me a lot more, and just, talking and hearing from everyone throughout this webinar, is just there's so many different routes. It's no longer just, you meet with us, we put your home on the market, we wait for buyers to come through. There's so many different ways to go through this process and tailor it to your specific situation in a way that's going to set you up for success. So, it's really just about having that conversation, whether it's, with Matt or with us, for us to come up with a tailor-made approach to be as successful as possible in this process.
Yeah, it's truly custom, no longer one size fits all until much further notice.
Yeah.
Stephanie, is there anything you wanted to add?
I will just add, piggyback on the preparation, because getting your house ready for selling is just a great way to live in your house, because it's nice and clean, it's fresh, you get to enjoy it. And then, like Matt and Diana and Tina have said, you're ready. So while we're home during these days, just take some time, prep your house. And if you have any questions about it, even if you're not ready to sell right now, we're here. And I would love to talk to you about it. So prep. Yeah.
That's so true. I mean, I've lost count of how many times, we come through, we give the advice, you come through, and then people are like, oh, I don't want to go. So
yeah, right.
So give yourself at least a month of that, something.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Oh, good stuff. All right. Well, that is everything that we intended to cover today. Feel free to reach out with us. Again, all of our information is on that sellwithtbg.com landing page. Thank you all so much for coming, and we hope to hear from you soon.
Yeah. Bye.